Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time here. My name is Dana. I am a homeschooling mama to 4 little ones. I currently have a 2nd grader, a 1st grader, a 3-year-old, and an almost 1.5-year-old. So if you've been following my homeschooling journey here for a while, you know that we started off our homeschool year for my 1st grader using everything Christian Light education. I love the curriculum. I still talk very highly of it because it is something that my 2nd grader is still using for all 3 of his core subjects, and that he is still thriving and just growing beautifully with the curriculum. I do love how open and go it is, how simplistic it is. It's not teacher intensive, but it can be student intensive, which is kind of what we're going to be talking about today, specifically when it comes to that 1st grade level. So curriculum changes. This is actually something I always am a little bit hesitant on talking about, but I also like to be transparent when it comes to what's working and what's not working. But I also want to throw the disclaimer out there that a lot of things that work or don't work for each family is incredibly subjective on the family. It is extremely subjective. So do keep that in mind, that just because something does not work for us, or not even work for us, but works for one of my children, even though it works beautifully for my other, that's okay, because every family is different, and not just family. I talk about this all the time, that every child is different. So what is working beautifully for my 2nd grader did not work beautifully for my 1st grader. And I always am amazed how that works, even within the same family unit, that sometimes you just have to make changes and yeah, just like implement things and like learn as you go, I guess you could say. With all that being said, we did change my 1st grader's reading and language arts program. Before I do share with you guys what that thing is, I wanted to give a brief rundown on a little bit more of my thought process behind switching curriculums for her. First of all, I want to say that I am very, very thankful for the fact that God kind of led me to only purchase half of the curriculum before we even started last year. I shared in several of my homeschooling prep with me and just homeschooling videos in general at the start of the year that I was only going to purchase half of the curriculum, not only because it's a good thing if you want to see if it works, but because storage. Like, I didn't have enough storage space to store, all 30 light units for the curriculum. So I am very thankful that at the end of this time here, I will have only maybe wasted $10 on curriculum instead of having a whole half a year go to waste. That was a big thing for me when it came to researching curriculums, was being very thankful that I wasn't wasting a whole half a year's worth of curriculum. So I'm very thankful for that the light units that we did have from CLE, we completed all but 2 of them. So again, that was in hindsight just a huge blessing that we decided to do it that way, was only purchasing half a year at a time. I do wish a lot of more curriculums allowed you to kind of split up the semester, or even into 2 parts, like you have your 1st and 2nd part, only because if it isn't working, again, you're not wasting almost a whole year. So I just am very thankful for the fact that CLE does break things up in light units. It's just very affordable that way. It lets you see if you actually like it before committing to a whole year. So that's a good thing as far as having to change curriculum. When I began looking at new curriculum that I wanted to switch my daughter into, we got to light unit. Just to give you, again, a brief history on our experience with the Learning to Read program. It worked beautifully for my 2nd grader, and it did work beautifully up to a point for my 1st grader. We got to about light unit 106, and it became a little bit challenging. 107, she was really struggling. 108 was kind of when we became too frustrated, and we just had to close the book. So with all of that being said, I finally realized, after kind of reflecting back on our homeschool semester, trying to pinpoint when it started to become really frustrating, and it was when the lessons were getting longer, there was more complex things while we weren't practicing doing the reading and everything like that enough, and it was just like all these little things, right? And so I was trying to find a curriculum, and I thought for a while that her thing was going to be, I need something bright and fun and colorful and hands-on and interactive and just all fun and fun looking as far as a curriculum. And I realized for her that was my wrong mentality when it came to homeschool. Yes, CLE's workbooks are very workbook heavy. They are dry, and for that hands-on, artsy type of learner, that would be a very boring curriculum. So I tried to find that curriculum that was the visual, that gave her that stimulation when it comes to learning. So your games, your fun pictures. And I ended up finding, and I loved the curriculum. It was all about reading and all about spelling. I thought that was such a fun curriculum. It was bright, colorful, fun, game-oriented, had a lot of activities. I'm like, this is right up her alley. It'd be great, right? And I looked at the price and I'm like, oh, I can't do this. It's, the school year is halfway over. And if I would have spent hundreds of dollars on this curriculum, I would have, had to jump a little bit ahead of it, because she would have been probably bored for the first part of it, because CLE did a very, very sound job in teaching reading. So I felt like a lot of the other 1st grade curriculums I looked at was a little bit too, not too below where she was at, but then second grade was too much. So I was trying to find that in-between curriculum, and I did not want to spend hundreds of dollars on a curriculum when I was only going to be using maybe half of it or jump halfway in. But I do love All About Reading. It might be one that I pick up for second grade for her. Maybe after I show you what I'm doing now, I possibly won't, because I am loving what we're doing now. But yeah, with all that being said, I thought for sure that her thing was going to be the fun hands-on thing. But what I realized is, like, this whole intro part of the video, I'm so sorry it's taking so long. I'm trying to explain my thought process here. But what I realized for her, it was not necessarily about the content as it was the length, again, of the lessons. They were just way too long and way too intensive. So I went back to the drawing board and I had my list of specifications I really wanted. I was like, okay, it needs to be short, because I realized for her it needs to be short, sweet, impactful, and powerful all at the same time. I'm like, oh goodness, where am I going to find a curriculum that is strong and mighty, simple and short, but packs a punch at the same time, if you know what I mean? So I don't want each individual segment of language arts. So I'm talking reading, I'm talking grammar, I'm talking spelling, and all those little segments that you have in language arts. I did not want a separate thing for each one, or a separate phonics, a separate like everything. And I was like, I wanted a one and all curriculum, kind of like CLE did provide us, but I wanted the lessons to be short, straight to the point, impactful while practicing all of these things. And I also wanted something that leaned a little bit more Charlotte Mason. So I wanted something that included narration, because she loves doing art and drawing and narrating. And I also wanted something that included dictation, your handwriting, like everything. I was like, does even such a curriculum exist? Like, does it exist? So because I could not find an exact curriculum that I wanted to do, and again, I did not want to spend that money on a huge curriculum and not use it all, I began researching different curriculums that were not curriculums. I began searching different methods and different ways to homeschool without an actual formal curriculum. And that was actually a very scary thing for me, because up to this point in my homeschooling journey, I have always done something very structured, very detail oriented when it comes to the teacher planners, the grids, the layouts. And I've always had something that is open and go, and just like pretty much the teacher guide tells you what to do per, each day, even though I remain flexible with what we do and how we do it. And anyway, it was just a scary thing for me to do something more on-schooly but still have that structure. And yeah, I'm gonna finally just go ahead and jump in and tell you guys what I've been using. And it's kind of funny, because I never thought when I was gonna be doing this curriculum update that I would be telling you guys and talking to you guys about this specific thing. We're stepping back all the way to the 1800s, and we are using the original McGuffey readers, and we are loving them. But these readers go all the way back to 1836, so we really are stepping way back into time. I have the complete set of the first edition, like the original edition, and I also have the complete set of the revised edition. I'm going to probably do another video giving you a side-by-side comparison of the two editions, because there's actually a pretty big difference. And as I got both sets in and I both started like reading them and seeing what they were all about, it took me a solid probably month to really fully decide on whether or not this is something I wanted to do. So when you first open these books, and I am going to give you a close-up look here in a second, it is not fancy, it's not colorful. You would first open these and be like, wow, okay, that's a very boring reader. But I think that's honestly the beauty of it in a way. It's very simplistic. It is extremely short, straight to the point, extremely powerful in how we are actually using these. So I'm going to grab the camera. I have this, and I'm also going to share with you the other 3 resources that I have that I've incorporated that kind of ties this in with using it. So yeah, I'm going to grab the camera and I'll show you what we're doing. So as I mentioned before, I have the entire original McGuffey readers. You can find all of these thrifted. I ended up finding them all online. I believe I got half of them on thrift books, and then these 3 on Mercari, so it ended up being very affordable. And one thing I will mention about the McGuffey readers is they are non-consumable, and with all the research I've done and all the information I've been able to find on them, if you start with, say, your primer, Speaking of which, I don't know, how do you guys pronounce primer? I've heard primer, primer, I don't know. I'm calling it primer because that's the way they pronounce it, but I've heard so many different ways. But the first actual primer starts very, very basic with all of your alphabet sounds, your beginning words, you have some sight words in here. This is going to be very different than the revised edition. I ended up getting both because I heard both like mixed reviews on the different sets. With the first being is the original set is very, very incredibly advanced, and so is the revised edition as well. But if you go all the way from the beginning to your fourth reader, you have your entire language arts curriculum going from your beginning to read all the way to almost college level. Like that's how advanced the readers get. And each lesson on the readers, you can take up to a week per one lesson. That's why the books are small, because they're small, powerful, because you're incorporating so many different parts of language arts within one lesson. And then but by the time you get to the original McGuffies, once you get to their fourth reader, this is college level. It's college level language arts. So I wanted to mention that. I've heard a lot of people that once you finish like the primer, and then you have their first reader, and then second reader. After you get to the first and second reader, I've heard a lot of people that will jump over to the newer edition to the third and then go finish the series using these, only because these are a little bit more simple. They're still very advanced, very sound and thorough, but after you finish the first two readers, once you jump to the third reader, it gets very advanced very quickly. So depending on your student and how they are in their reading, you can definitely do this, but it is very, it can be challenging, I've heard, in different ones. So I ended up getting both editions only because I wanted to incorporate both of them, and they have different things. So I'm going to do a full video on comparing the two editions in an upcoming video. Another thing about these is they're not really grade level. You have your primer, which can be for first and second grade, and then you have your first reader, but they're not really grade level per se, which I honestly love because, again, I'm trying to break my thinking pattern of needing a grade level assigned and needing a formal curriculum, and this has just done a really beautiful job in keeping me from being, yeah, I guess more flexible and not worrying about the grade and completing the book. So what we do is I'm going to give you a little bit of a look at what we do on the day-to-day thing, and then I'll show you the resources that I have to go with it. But I have my first grader in the pictorial electric primer, and let me find the lesson that we're on here. Okay, so here's the lesson that we are currently, let me take the picture out. So here's the lesson that we are currently on when it comes to her thing. Something that I have added on because I know she loves art, and this is something that is very simple, but it is also very impactful to how the lessons go and kind of like the engagement of it. But what I have is I have this little heavy paperweight magnifying glass, and so she'll use this to study the artwork on it. The illustrations in the McGuffies I think are just beautifully, beautifully done. It is, again, that old style actual art, and so what she does is she'll take this and she'll just like study the art picture, but then she'll also use this and she'll do the actual reading with it, so it keeps her engaged. And it's just a fun interactive thing that I know it's something so simple, but she loves using this little magnifying glass. So I have that. And then as well as, because this is an actual book, it's not going to stay open, I will also put the book on the table and then put that on there when we're going to do copy work and stuff, because it holds it open. So it's a very heavy paperweight. So I wanted to mention that as being a really fun thing that we've loved incorporating. So I'm going to give you a brief look at what we do for our lessons. The first thing we do is we have our spelling list. And I have never seen her progress so beautifully and quickly in her spelling until we started using the McGuffies, because I love how they incorporate all these little things. So we start the lesson by reviewing our spelling words. We'll have a little spelling test at the end of the week. And then all the reading we're doing is this part here. And then that's it. That is it for all the lesson. I didn't even realize the lesson was so short. And this is this lesson here too, though. This is your spelling words that you're going to be working on spelling and writing, and then this is your actual story. So I love how short and powerful it is, where before a whole lesson in her CLE reading program was 6, sometimes 7 pages long. That's a lot for little people. It is a lot. But when you have a short yet powerful way to do your entire language arts program with one lesson, and again, this has been around since the 1800s, so you know it's very, very good and sound. I love it. And there's only this much reading, but again, you're really focusing on your spelling words. We're doing handwriting, we're doing dictation. So I'm going to give you a look at what we're using with this, and we are actually using the lesson book. I'm going to turn the camera around to point down so I can give you a look at what we're doing with it. So we have our primer, and then to go along with it, I have the lesson book. This is actually done by another homeschool mama here on YouTube. Her YouTube channel is Mom Delights, I believe, but she actually created these books, and this book is actually free to download and print off if you're interested in incorporating that with the McGuffies. So what our lessons look like on the day-to-day basis, so she's already done a few weeks of it here, as you can tell, but what she does is I will take, let's open up to the first one here, is we'll have our spelling words. This is her first page here of her spelling. We have sun, hat, book, rock, bat, and sock. And the reason why I say this is right up my little one's alley is because she does love narration. So for example, next week when we start this lesson, I'm going to go to a new section over here, and I'm going to show you what a whole entire week's worth of lessons is going to look like. We have 2 days worth of sight words. So what I do is we open up to our lesson that we're on. Again, it's very short yet powerful. I'm going to take our spelling words, and for each one, I'm going to have her read them out loud to me, and then I'm going to have her spell them. So after I've said, okay, honey, can you spell the word to? Can you spell the word may? All right, can you dictate to me the word but, do, wet, whatever words that she does not get as far as dictating back to me how they're spelled, I will then put them in her lesson book, and then I will have about 6 different words a day where she will do the copy work. So I'll write out 6 words, and they are again from her spelling list, and then she will draw the little picture that goes with it. It's something so simple, it doesn't take hardly any time. So this part here probably takes her 5 minutes. So I'll write out the words that she needs help learning to spell. She will then write the picture, and then that's all that she does for the first day. On the first day, she will also read the section here. So she reads this pretty much every single day for a week, and that's it. That's honestly an entire week on one lesson, because on those days as well, again, you're doing 2 days worth of your narration, your copy work, your spelling. So by the end of the week, she has mastered this entire spelling list and can use it in complete sentences when writing and everything. On day 2, that's when we move over to our copy work, and she will copy, if it is a short story, she will copy this entire story. So what we'll do for copy work is, again, we'll get our little magnifying paperweight here. We'll open this up, and she will just copy that entire paragraph into her copy work. And as we're doing our copy work, we are also talking about, okay, what is a common noun? What's a proper noun? What is an action word? And all those different things. What does the comma do? What is the purpose of having the uppercase be the names? So we're talking about all those grammar rules while she's doing copy work. On day 3, or no, I'm sorry, this is day 4 now, we're doing dictation. So I am then telling her, okay, let's write this sentence. It is too wet now for Lucy and Mary to go out, but the hot sun can dry up the dew, and by Lucy and Mary may go out. So I'm dictating one little line at a time for her, and she's writing it, and then she gets to narrate it. So that is an entire week's worth of lessons on one page. That's what the weeks look like. Again, it's very simple. It is still, honestly, guys, it's still very open and go, but being short and very powerful, because again, she is mastering the spelling list. She's mastering the very beautifully done English language. Another thing I wanted to mention is being a huge pro for the McGuffies in general. Let me grab the first reader real quick. Is by the time you get to the first reader, you'll see the same common themes in this one as well. By the time you get to the first one, you have so many beautiful, just high moral stories about prayer, about honoring the Lord, about the first thing you do when you get up in the morning is just worshiping the Lord. And I love that about the original McGuffies. You'll see that as a common theme throughout all the McGuffies, is the high esteem for the Creator, all He's done, and just honoring and worshiping Him. High morals, like extremely high morals. The revised edition still has those good high moral stories, but they did take out a lot of the faith-based things when they revised them. them. That's why I love the actual original, because the actual stories are just beautiful. I actually like them a lot better than the actual CLE stories that are in them. I also did end up getting the parent teacher guide. You can still find this on Mont Media, and I love this. It's going to give you a brief look at what you would do for each lesson. So for example, let me go to where we are at here. So for example, this is going to be an idea of what we're going to be doing on the weekly basis. We're going to be spelling words from dictation, write words as they are dictated by phonograms, copy sentences from the teacher's model, write sentences from dictation, find a word or sentence the teacher reads, find the answer to a question the teacher asks, read aloud with good expression. And I love that they emphasize this. So when we see a sentence as a question mark, we're going to read it like a question. So we're going to actually learn how to read with expression. Read silently, tell about the story, then read it aloud. Write your own stories, which again is also coming in handy with this as well. Is this lesson book really provides everything that the McGuffey readers suggest, and draw a picture to illustrate their stories. Again, the lesson book, and I love it. So it has all the little parts here that you need. It even has spelling. If your child has a hard time spelling, I'm going to jump all over the place here for a second. If they have a hard time with spelling, this is an incredible resource, even if you don't want to use this program for language arts. The actual progressive speller is just phenomenal. I love it. And I will probably do a complete flip through on this as well, but you're starting with basic blends. And then again, you're going all the way up to your college level spelling by the time you're done with this book. So I'm going to give probably a flip through on how I incorporate that into our language arts. I only incorporate that in as needed because I found that just using the lesson book and the layout I showed you here, I'm not needing it quite yet. So I'm going to go to the first reader here. In this teacher guide, it's going to have you the main theme that you're going to want to be working on with your students. So for example, you're going to have this lesson here. You're going to work on spelling. All the numbers to 10 is going to be the main goal for this specific lesson, is to spell again all the way to 10 to 20. You're going to read for detail, get some beans and work out problems as John and his mother did. Write a paragraph explaining to a little child how to add 2 numbers using beans or marbles. Is it clear? Let the classmate try to follow the directions you wrote. So this is a fun thing. Highly recommend the teacher guide. It's going to really give you in only one sentence, I'm not even kidding, as you saw, in 1 or 2 sentences, it's going to give you everything you need to know to complete this 1 or 2 pages of lessons in here. Again, it being very short, very sweet, straight to the point, and I love incorporating those. So this is the core of our new language arts, is the McGuffey readers, which I have been absolutely loving and probably will continue to use, guys, for a while anyway. And then the lesson book, which again, I'll have linked down below. You can buy this on Amazon. I ended up buying it on Amazon. It's extremely affordable, very affordable. And I found all the McGuffey readers thrifted. And the thing is, as I mentioned before, is that McGuffeys are non-consumable. So you can use these forever. Just get a set and they can literally last forever. And I've just been loving them. I really, really have. I'm very thankful that I came across these and my memory was kind of spiked again as far as remembering that these even existed. Because a lot of the times, especially me as a homeschool mama, I can get really caught up in all the new shiny curriculum and all the beautiful illustrations and all the shiny and new, right? It can be tempting to click add to cart with all the shiny new curriculum. And I'm just thankful for something like this that is still around, it still exists, it has extremely high morals. And it's just, I don't know, there's something about it that is so just simple. Again, it's non-consumable, so you can use it for however long you want to. And I love that. I love that I don't have to worry about a grade level. I don't have to worry about completing it. I can go at our own pace, which is another beautiful thing. But if, for example, your child needed help on these words, you can stay on this lesson for longer than a week if you need to. Or if they've mastered the spelling list, they know all of the words, they can read it beautifully and fluently, then you can go on to the next one and do multiple lessons a week. You can go at your own pace, which I love. And again, I'm going to highlight it again. It's not on grade, like it's not a grade. It's completing the readers is what it is about. And so I love that, guys. It provides so much freedom and flexibility. And when I first started it, again, I was a little bit scared because it wasn't a a formal curriculum that I was used to seeing everywhere. So again, I'm gonna try to speed this video up here. This is our core of what we're doing, is the McGuffey's with the lesson book 1. There's also, by the way, there's different levels of the lesson book. I also bought level 2 to see if that's one that she would be using. But I think level 1 is a great place for her to start because she gets to narrate the pictures and stuff. But they have all the lessons all the way through high school, as far as the levels all the way through high school. So that's the core. And then for phonics, what I'm doing to go along with this is Explode the Code. I have Explode the Code 1 and then 1.5, and I also have Explode the Code 2. I ended up getting all 3, and just as a I don't know how to say this, I guess just as a heads up, if you want to call it that. Explode the Code, I ended up getting this on Amazon, but I wanted to mention as well when it comes to getting stuff on Amazon is to look at their other options. Like, don't just buy the brand new version. I ended up getting this for $6 on Amazon because it had like some bent corners and stuff, which I don't care about. I do not care if it's in perfect condition, but the fact that it was only $6 just made it extremely affordable. But this is a wonderful supplement to add in with the McGuffey's. I'm going to have down below linked the website that will actually match you up to where you are at in some very common curriculum. It's going to take things like Explode the Code. It's going to take some other really popular language arts curriculum, and it's going to tell you exactly what reader you're ready for based on where you are at and some other popular things. So I got this to go along with this, and even though she's flying through the first part of this like very, very quickly, I love it just as a way to really keep our phonics mastery. These two things have just been beautiful together. So I have our reading, I have our little phonics thing here. The last thing that I have that kind of really ties this together beautifully, it is not something that I incorporate every single day. It's maybe twice a week, and that is the Gentle Grammar. It's actually from the same lady, momdelights.com. Yep, it's from the same lady that came out with these books specifically designed for the McGuffey's. So if you have the lesson book, Gentle Grammar, plus the McGuffey's readers, these are the 3 things that she actually specifically designed for the McGuffey's. And I cannot thank this mama enough for doing this, because having this is, yes, you can do the same thing using your own notebook, but this makes this open and go for me as a mama. So I'm just very thankful for the YouTube. Again, I'll have her channel linked down below just because I am so incredibly thankful that she put in the work and the effort to create this, making this an open and go curriculum for mama. Anyway, the Gentle Grammar is one that we're doing with her as well. It is also very just short and sweet and to the point. It is not giving you anything extra than what the priorities are for that day when it comes to grammar. So your language exercises would be is and are in statement. So copy these sentences, place a period after each. So the boy is here, the boys are here. So it's is and are for that day. And then on this one, it's use is in statements about a notebook. So this is a notebook. This is an apple. This is a book. This is a table. And so I love how simple and sweet this is. So we'll flip through a few of these pages here. Let me know if you want a complete flip through. I'll probably end up doing it just because I would love for more people to know about these 3 resources and just how beautifully they work together. So colors, name 2 kinds of red fruit. What colors are in our flag, just some beautiful first grade and second grade type questions that is really going to make that grammar come to life and practice, and I just love it. One of my favorite things, again, about incorporating the Gentle Grammar with the McGuffey's and with the lesson book, and McGuffey actually said this multiple times in his teacher guide too, is this is giving the children an opportunity to, and as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it's giving them the opportunity to not just learn about language arts, but to do it. And I love that. You're actually doing hands-on language arts. So I'm going to do a quick rundown on everything here. We're doing these 4 things. We're doing Gentle Grammar just maybe twice a week, but we are doing the actual reading with the lesson book every single day, as well as Explode the Code every single day. And we have been loving that. And again, the cherry on top for my daughter is this little magnifying glass, which she loves using when it comes to incorporating all of her little fun things. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed seeing what we are doing for our first grade language arts. It is something just so simple and basic, but what, again, I've mentioned before is what I've learned with my first grader is she wasn't necessarily wanting the bright and colorful. She wanted the short and simple, yet still fun and interactive that this book provides for her. And I just love it. So to give you a brief kind of side-by-side comparison of CLE versus this program that I'm doing now. With CLE, by the time we did her reading, her language arts, because they were very workbook heavy, we were doing, and with math included, because math is also workbook heavy with CLE, but between the two, we were doing maybe 12 to 15 pages a day of just workbook stuff. So 12 to 15 pages down to, with reading, 1 page, and then within that 1 page, again, we are doing spelling, writing, dictation, everything. I have seen her, and even in the solid month that we've been doing the McGuffies, I have seen her come such a long way, specifically with spelling, I think, because it is something with spelling we're working on every single day. It's a spelling list, it's a dictation, it's a narration, and it is very Charlotte Mason-esque, I guess you could say, but it has just fit our family beautifully, especially my first grader and everything that she needs in homework right now. Anyway, all that to say is I went from having a 2-hour period, a kind of frustrating period because there's too much workbooks for the first grade for her, to now we are doing all of our language arts. So again, everything I showed you is done within half an hour. And that's it. That's all we're doing is under half an hour, and then her math will take probably another solid 20 minutes. So she's done in probably an hour at the very most. So we cut our actual workbook time in half. And then what we have been doing to actually practice reading, because even though the lessons in here are short and mighty and powerful, and I love it, just to practice our actual reading, I have a lot of readers that we've been using for years in our home, and just like simple grade level books, like first and second grade level for her. And we've just been reading every night. Our new kind of theme right now for our home is we all pile into mommy and daddy's bed around 7:30, 8 o'clock after we've all gotten ready for bed, and they'll just read. We'll read for probably half an hour before we actually get ready for bed. And that's just been our kind of like nightly thing. It gives them a chance to read and to practice reading. We read to each other. Mommy and daddy will read books to the kids, and it's just our reading time has been how we've been winding down our evening, and I love it. It's the sense of connection, but it also gives them the ability to practice, and yes, we've just been loving that as far as a new rhythm. But thank you guys again for being here. I hope you enjoyed seeing what we have been loving in our home, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye guys.